Let's talk a little bit about Marvell, Pat. You and I, went out to San Jose and actually had time to spend some time with the executive team there. Didn't talk about earnings, of course, because it was the day before, but it's always good to see Chris Koopmans and team out there and appreciate their hospitality. But, what we were, asking about is there an AI story here from Marvell? So, obviously Marvell saw a bit of a Cinderella story over the course of the 2021 year as the, custom silicon for, cloud and networking. And the company really has a ton of the content required for anything optical. Right. And it's been a huge success in that particular industry. But, as the market sort of pulled back, semiconductors slowed down, they were a company that got stuck with a little bit of inventory. They had some, slowdowns related to, the companies they were providing to. And, they saw their stock fall by 50, 60% during that period of time. So it was kind of this big peak and then this big gully. And, the question marks were what's going to be next for the company. I think everybody had a question is is there an AI opportunity? And so this quarter, Matt Murphy, CEO, came out and the company had a beat, but it wasn't a massive beat. I think it was a few cents on the earnings. It was a few dollars on the revenue, but they came out and they basically said, they have about $200 million right now in revenue related to AI, and they believe that they're going to be able to double that in the new year, in the next year. Now that's okay, but it was like 200 million to 400 million. You're talking about, a company that did about 1.3 billion this quarter. So it's still, a small, fairly, small part of the company's overall revenue stream. Having said that, though, I think the signal of intent was really big. And so, first of all, the claims to double, much like Jensen saying a $4 billion up on the guide, is probably a very conservative number. Right. I think that they know they can do a lot better than that, Pat. I think that the thing is, NVIDIA with InfiniBand and with NVLink has a fairly tight grasp on the networking of all of the GPUs. But in the future, there's going to be two things happening. One is we got to connect all these racks up for all this AI. And second of all, there are going to be second, third, and fourth players that are going to enter the market that are going to need high performance optical connectivity that's going to run rack to rack. And Marvell is positioned really well there to grow and to gain business. And like I said, since you're really talking about growth from a fairly small start at about 200 million, I think that 400 million is conservative, and they could easily see that double or triple in the years ahead of that. This earnings though, Pat, they got like a 25% bump on this result.
Yeah, I know.
Now, let's be candid what this is about. This isn't all about Marvell's story yet. Yeah. But this is all about the fact that Marvell was successfully able to connect its role in the future of AI to the growth that you're seeing for NVIDIA and for AI training and ultimately for inference. And I think that's really important. The company's acquisition strategy, its overtures into fiber, its ability to really grow in the data center, and of course that it has connective tissues across the stack. They've moved heavily into 5G. They moved heavily into automotive. The ability to build, silicon for networking and high performance networking is going to be a big thing. And Pat, I think you and I really sat down, and even as you and I talked, we're like, there is a tailwind and a pull through effect that all this demand for AI training is going to have. And companies like Marvell, like Broadcom, are likely going to be the biggest beneficiaries. So I think the market agreed with us. I think everything else about this quarter's earnings were just kind of business as usual, but it was really the fact is everyone's ears were open following the drafting tailwinds of NVIDIA. Can Marvell capitalize? Matt Murphy, Chris Koopmans, the team, they were able to capitalize. They saw 20+% gains following their earnings. And I think it's just the start for their AI story.
Yeah, great analysis there, Dan. And I was on Street Signs last night talking NVIDIA, and also, they asked me what companies, right, are related. And I brought up Marvell, and I tried to very simply explain that when it comes to training, GPUs in isolation don't add a lot of value, right? You have to network these things together to make it look like one planar surface, right? And those interconnections between those GPUs need to be really, really fast. And that's where Marvell comes in. Is they're the company that networks the GPUs together. And I wrote a column on Meta as an example. Their research cloud is 160,000 GPUs that are networked together. And I'm not saying that that's Marvell or it's not, but that just gives you an idea how important it is to pull those together. And Marvell did double down on growth in certain areas and was crushing it in those highest growing areas, and whether that was the cloud, whether that was 5G. They do really well in automotive as well, and that's chugging along just nicely. But this AI training, I'll call it training now, inference likely letter boost is a good one. Now, it's not just networking, okay? Marvell has capabilities not only in custom SoCs, but also opportunities in full-scale AI ASICs. So I know the company has talked a little bit about what to expect with these, but they have design wins in both ASICs and in AIs that are, AI-focused SoCs, which I think is going to surprise a lot of people out there. And that's just kind of the gift that keeps on giving, right? That's a multi-year engagement. That's multi-year benefits that's coming down the road. And oh, by the way, all that custom work on the front end, you've got NRE. So it's not like you get to the altar and even if they pull the plug, there's zero. At least you're making some money on the NRE, not nearly as much as if they would have taken it over the line. But I can't see any US-based CSP with a custom piece of AI silicon that helps lower the cost of AI. Anybody pulling the plug on that. So, congrats, Marvell. It's good to see it happening, and I'm looking forward to covering this in the future.
Yeah, and thanks for pulling together about the ASICs and custom SoCs. That is a big part of the business. Probably a little farther down the road before it's going to be as impactful on the AI side, but it is something I think I saw some numbers, and into 25 could be a very interesting part of the business as well.